everyone, it's your girl Mary, and you're tuning in to Around the Way with the GirlMob. Now, if you've been following us for a minute, whether it be on Instagram at the GirlMob or on our website, thegirlmob.com, you know that every July we highlight men of color doing amazing things in the community. So this episode is extra special. We're here to highlight fathers of color and what does it mean to be a girl dad. Without further ado, hi guys, welcome to the GirlMob table.
How's it going?
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
So what I like to do for our guests, because not only do we have our amazing fan base on YouTube, but we also have a podcast. I want you guys to just go ahead and introduce yourselves. Just give me your name, the age of your children, and what does it mean to you, like just being a girl dad?
My name is Jaylee. I'm an Aries. I like long walks on the beach. I'm blessed to be a father of two beautiful little girls, a feminist 6-year-old and a daredevil 4-year-old. So two beautiful little girls.
I love that.
That's awesome. So I'm Gio. My daughter's brand spanking new, not 4 or 6 yet. She's 3 months. That intro I would do, but it's like the single versus the married intros. Like the long walks to the beach happen in conjunction. But anyway, what it means to be a girl dad is super awesome. It means that I have the opportunity to kind of help raise this young lady and provide her options that she didn't have in the past because of stigmas and stereotypes and like that. So I'm really excited about that kind of part of being a dad.
So what I love about you, both of you, your stories are very different. So I want to know each of you to give me your story about how did you find out, one, that you were going to be a dad, and then once you found out that you was having a girl, like what was the emotions behind that?
Oh, geez. I had just come home from the studio, and there were 3 pregnancy tests lined up on the sink.
Oh.
So, and they all were positive. So, and then my ex, she comes out bawling with just tears. She's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant." So I tried to be strong for her, but inside I was like, Jesus, what is going on? My whole world is crashing. And then when I found out it was a girl, I was like, no, there was something in me that wanted a boy. I guess there's I would say stigma that every man wants another son or to carry on the family name. Little did I know that having a daughter is probably a dad's best gift. So
what I want to know, why did you feel like your world was crashing? Because that's a strong statement.
Because I had so many goals and so many things that I wanted to accomplish, and I wasn't mentally, financially, any leads that you can think of. I was not ready for it. So I was I already counted myself out before it even started. I was like, dude, I'm not in a good position to be a dad, and I'm just not. I was a kid, so mentally I was still a little boy, so I had to grow up quick, and I think facing the fact that you had to grow up was what was no, I can't party as much as I did.
So that's good. We're actually going to take a deeper dive into that and how fatherhood has changed you. But I want to go ahead and give Gio a chance to share his finding out that he was having a...
So it's a little bit on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I give you credit for sticking with it and doing it because on the opposite side, my wife and I are planners. We can do the spontaneous thing it's nobody's business, but we like to try and plan everything. And my older brother jokes around. He's like, oh, people plan, God laughs. And we're always like, oh, okay, all right, that's fine. But we were planning it so that we can probably have the baby sometime in the fall. We both love the fall and things like that. So
wow, wait, to the season? You planned it to the season? Wow.
Also, logistically, with her job and maternity leave and all that, it made more sense to have the baby in the fall for days and stuff. So, we had gotten married. We had bought a house first. We got married in January, and then we went on our honeymoon in February. And when we were trying to honeymoon, we both were kind of devastated when we got back from the honeymoon in February and she wasn't pregnant. So, of course, it's always fun to keep trying and making those arrangements, right? That's never the issue. Practice makes better. And so sometime in early March, my wife didn't want to tell me until we were sure. And so, I'm usually the light sleeper, but I kept catching her sneaking out the bathroom and kind of trying to run around. And one morning I woke up and I was like, that pregnancy test? And she was like, shit. Pardon me. She's like, damn. So I asked her and she was like, yeah, it's not really the thing. And so we tried a couple of days later and I found out. And so I was like, yeah, excited. And then so for me, I was just excited to be a dad. So for me, the gender even though deep down inside I wanted a girl, my mom has 4 sons. There's boys all over my family. I wanted more girls. I had a sister that passed away young, but I wanted a girl. I thought it was such a cool idea, especially as a feminist, to really challenge some of these things through that. So it's almost selfish. But she wanted to know the gender. I didn't care. And then so a couple weeks later, as a runner, I ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon, and she told me the sex while I was running. So around mile 7 or 8, I'm running, and she has a sign, and it says "Run through gender reveal," and she flipped it, and it said, you know, it's a girl. And I might have cried from mile 7 to 8 because you had all these random strangers behind you, like, "Congrats, bro, congrats!" I'm like, "Don't touch me," but yeah, this is amazing. Because like Jaylee was saying, your life does change, right? When you realize that it's no longer just you, right? You have this other life that you have to care about, and you don't really get what that looks like until they're there. But I was just ecstatic. So that finding out in that way was really cool for me.
That's an amazing story, and the fact that she like took that on, like knowing the gender before you, I thought that was super sweet.
Hashtag goals.
Right?
Stop it.
No, but I think both of your journeys are still really important because I think there's men and women who are out there who can relate to both. That surprise factor of like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And then that other one, like, we want this to happen.
Right.
So I think both of your stories are beautiful in that way. And I want to talk a little bit more about that family planning aspect of it. Did you pick a partner that, like, let's say you fell in love with the same person.
Right.
Because I personally know your wife, and she's a phenomenal woman. She does extraordinary things. If she decided that she didn't want to have children, would that be like, you like, no, I'm going to be a dad at some point? Would that have been a hard no for you?
You know, so I want to say yes and no, but as a planner, like, I don't think we would have gotten there in our dating lives if I knew she didn't want kids. Because as Jaylee was saying, you know, he was thinking about, I'm not gonna be able to party and do things and kind of all that. And so at some point, you know, as I was leaving my 20s and heading into my 30s, I made a strategic decision where it's like, I've partied, I've done these things. The next person I'm looking for in a relationship is going to be a partner that wants similar things. And so, and having known Gabby since undergrad and kind of just, we orbited each other's circles for a while. And I was always like, oh, she's this and she's awesome. But yeah, I would never want to engage with that person because I was like, I'm not ready kind of thing. And then at some point, after a relationship had ended, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm tired of this kind of like. So, you know, when we went to brunch one morning and she kind of ducked me a couple of times trying to reschedule brunch. We finally had a chance to talk. And not that I was that guy at the brunch who was like, I want kids, I want this and this, but, you know, you float the idea around. We were chatting and he was like, you know, I hope one day to have a family. And at that point, I was like, I want 5 kids. I want like 5. Knowing that it's not my choice at all. You know, it's a woman's body and her decision. Now that we've had one, I'm like, you know, Gia be all right by herself. Maybe she'll get a brother, sister, but, you know, 2 is at max, right? So
Gia and Jet, that's it.
That's it.
Jet
her
is
and my
his
dog. But yeah, so it was one of those things where yeah, I think if we started to date or it was in the early stages and she kind of hinted or said she didn't want kids, I wouldn't hold that against her. That's her personal choice. But me, knowing that I wanted a family, would have done that. Now, if she shared with me that she wants kids but couldn't have any, I wouldn't have been like, oh, no way, right? It would have been like, all right, well, let's talk about what adoption looks like or, you know, surrogacy or whatever we needed to think about. But yeah, I think being a family person was something as a priority for me.
And Jaylee, your story is obviously a bit different. How was the transition from actually being in a space where you two were raising 2 children together to now having to find a way to raise them together, but technically not physically together?
That is the dynamic between the 2 individuals that have separated, putting their differences aside and sort of figuring out, all right, you and I were like vinegar and baking soda, but that doesn't mean that we should be explosive in front of the kids. We have to protect their best interest. So I'm fortunate enough that we've both been, we're able to put aside the petty stuff and all the like dislike for each other, to sort of put the girls first. So we're very open with that part. And, you know, I don't want to say we treat it like a business, but it sort of is, where, all right, our feelings don't matter in this. So the girls come first, basically.
So what does your schedule look like?
So I'm lucky enough to have the girls every other weekend. I have friends of mine who don't see their kids at all, because of the situation that, you know, the mother just doesn't want them to be around the kids. And I can legit see my kids whenever I want. So if after here I want to go see the girls, I can go see the girls. So we do have that type of relationship where it's like the girls come first. I think that is probably the most important thing that you could do. Because you see a lot of kids who grow up in two different homes, and they have these kind of issues that they battle with.
Yeah.
I don't see that in the girls because they feel loved, and I think both of our families do the best that we can as separate teams, but together at the same time to kind of like, all right, these girls. You know that whole saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
You ain't even
That's
lie.
basically that's basically what it is.
That multiple support.
Right.
So transitioning just a little bit, when it comes to like dating, I'm assuming you are trying to maybe date.
That's a question for me, right? No.
No, it's not.
I think he's better equipped to answer that one.
So when it comes to dating, like, how is that? Like, obviously the question, I know a lot of people are probably gonna like send us via Instagram or YouTube. It's gonna be, when is it the time to introduce somebody to your kids?
Oh, word.
Well, the first thing is anyone who's gone through a major breakup, the best thing to do is work on yourself right after. Don't focus on the dating, because you're gonna force yourself into like different situations that you don't even belong in. You're gonna meet people that you don't need to be around. So focus on yourself first, and of course your children. Your children need to see you happy. Your children need to see you succeeding.
Why do you think that's a need?
That is a need because you're providing the framework for your kids to follow. Unfortunately and fortunately, depending on the situation, whatever foundation has been put before us is how we make our decisions, for better or worse. So knowing that, I have a little post-it on my door every time I leave the house or leave my room. It says, because they need a roadmap. That is my why for every day.
Wow.
So back to what you were saying, the question, dating, it was on my mind for the longest, but now it's just kind of like
On the back burner.
on the back burner, because there's so many things I want to accomplish, so many things I want to do, that it's not really, if she comes, she comes. And when will I introduce her to the girls? I think the sweet spot is 8 months to a year, when you know this person is like, all right, this person is important in my life. I'm gonna. It looks like they're staying around, like they're sticking around. So I think that's a sweet spot
for you.
And to see how the girls interact with her, and vice versa, is also important. So
That's really important. So would you introduce the girls to the new person first, or would you actually have the new person meet the children's mother first?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Good question.
Say that again. That's a what?
yeah, say that for the people in the back.
Good question.
I wasn't afforded that, so it's kind of I don't know. It's gonna be a spur of the moment type of thing. I don't think I'm gonna plan it.
You're gonna follow your intuition.
I'm gonna follow my intuition. Definitely, I do think that the day the girls meet my future significant other, I think that's gonna be a very important day, because that's gonna dictate how the rest of that relationship, turns out.
So fatherhood, like every journey, has its ups and its downs, right? So what is the most rewarding thing about being a dad, and what would you say is probably the biggest challenge, a challenge that society probably wouldn't even think of?
Yeah.
Bathrooms.
You went straight for the challenge.
Straight for the
Straight for the
challenge.
gut.
Yeah, I think when it comes to bathrooms, we had an example off camera about just finding appropriate bathrooms, male bathrooms for your kids, especially having girls, and making sure those are cleanly. I think if I put that under an umbrella of challenges overall, it's just how society sees dads, period, and how society sees dads of color, which is the next level, and then dads of color of girls, because there's stigmas around what dads should and shouldn't do. There's stigmas about, should you bring a little girl into a men's room? Why is the dad carrying the girl? Why is the dad feeding? And there's all these questions, and I think that falls under the even bigger challenge, just culture, just this idea of whether you're a person of color, Latino, Latinx, however you identify, and what that looks like in fatherhood. So having to challenge a lot of the irrational things that my family throws at us. The baby's hungry, feed her. It's like, no, we've researched. She's on a feeding schedule. She's on a nap schedule. Like, we have things planned out. And so she's not hungry. She ate, right? And that overfeeding, just again, that culturally could lead to diabetes and overweight and unhealthy habits in the beginning. And those are the challenges that we're facing. Swaddling a baby, like, culturally, my wife's culture swaddles the babies up and down, right? She's Ecuadorian, I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican. Like, my mom never swaddled me or any of my brothers. She's like, baby, you swaddling her too tight. She doesn't like it. I'm like, mommy, it's a swaddle. Like, and she likes to feel secure because of the womb. And so those are some of the challenges, because as I was saying a while ago, is we as a culture in this younger parenting, or not even younger parenting, we know more about parenting than our parents did. And that's not a slight, that's not disrespectful. It's just research has given us more tools, right? There was no heart rate monitors for babies in the 80s and 90s. There was no nanny cams, back then. There was not these books, or if they did, they didn't appeal to our culture because they were for folks of privilege, right? Whether it were white folks or folks who have money, those cultures had those things. And for us, my mom had her first son at 17, and then me at 22, and then my other brothers subsequently later. But it's one of those things that her and I talk about raising a kid. We're like speaking different languages, but we've been lucky enough to have a good relationship where she's like, I'm gonna respect how you gonna raise your daughter, but just know I'm not swaddling her, right? Yeah. So those are the challenges, and I think thus far the rewards have been a combination of seeing how my wife and I are deciding to raise this little girl in terms of having benefits. Like, sleep training is a big taboo for people. People are like, oh my God, don't do that to the baby. But it's working. We're both working professionals, and like, we're partners. So I can't be like, you're not going to work, I'm going to work, you're going to stay home and take care of the kid. We got to get this baby sleeping so we can have it. So those have been the rewards, like making decisions for the child that have been paying off, thinking about planning her future, right? Like, what do y'all want to do for her first birthday? Well, we want to cut a cake, but there's this little college fund y'all can all chip into, right? She don't need 1,500 toys because she's not going to remember them on her first birthday, right? So that has been the most rewarding so far, being able to kind of make decisions that we consciously know, at least hopefully, are going to shift or try to shake some of these stereotypes or irrational beliefs around our culture, our people, in terms of raising a little girl. So that's been the dopest part.
Can I ask you to share that story that you shared off camera? Because it's something that I've never heard of. Like, what happened to you last weekend with your daughter when she had to use the bathroom?
So she's 3 months. We have to change her. And we went into a store. I couldn't remember what it was. It might have been a Bye Bye Baby for all intents and purposes. And those fold down changing tables, right? I thought, my wife's busy, she breastfeeds, she does a lot of work, so anything I can do to take that pressure off, I'm like, I got it. Baby needs a change, baby needs it, I got it. So I went into the bathroom and there was no fold down thing, right? And I was like, well, how do I, right? And so I had a decision to make. I could have left and said, babe, there's nothing you got to bring in. But like, she's shopping, she has a relief, she's probably checking her social media first. So I was like, all right, we're gonna change it, right?
That was nice husband award.
No, I'm decent at best. It's literally, I don't know, women are the better half of the species. The things that y'all can do.
Can you say that one more? I'm just saying.
No, listen, y'all can quote me. We men, we can be useless in terms of, anyway. So, I had to make a decision to change.
Good men are really, really important.
Thank y'all. I had a decision to change her in the bathroom, right? So, you put her on your lap and you figure it out, and it's chaotic because you're trying to change a diaper. There's poo or pee. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a mystery. Then you don't know if she peed in this. So everything got everywhere. But it's one of those things that you don't think about, right? Like, because men aren't supposed to be bringing the baby into the bathroom changing, right? That's the mom's job. So, those are challenges that come up that, again, nobody tells you or nobody thinks about. And I brought that up because Jay Lee off camera was mentioning just that kind of a challenge of thinking, especially with older girls.
Yeah, it's crazy. I travel a lot with my kids. So the bathroom has single-handedly been my kryptonite.
Really? That's like the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have never thought that. But the bathroom, like, just a simple going potty has been like crazy. So, for example, we went to what you call it?
An amusement park.
Amusement park. Thank you. And the 3-year-old, at the time she was 3 years old, she had to use the potty, and I could not find a restroom for her to use. And
because you were by yourself.
I was by myself.
You didn't have another woman with you. Yeah.
So I finally found a bathroom on the other side of the amusement park, and by that time she was walking kind of stiff and weird. Damn. And she's like, "Daddy, I did cocky."
Damn.
I'm like, oh man. So I had to clean her up in the men's bathroom, which is never sanitary, because guys, our aim is in everything. Our aim is just terrible, I guess.
Sometimes women aren't much better. I go into the women's bathroom, and how did you get it all over the seat? I don't know.
You know what? I have this fantasy of the women's bathroom being very clean and having a couch. So don't ruin that for me.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Yo, off camera, I'll tell you a story. I went into the women's room by accident in my job, and I sat there for an hour because I was terrified to leave. I was like, oh, shit, I'm in the wrong.
Yeah.
And there was no couch, but go ahead.
But there's times that I feel like, you know what, I'm just going to walk into the women's bathroom with these girls, but then in the back of my mind, I'm like, lawsuit. So I'm like, you know what, I just go into the men's bathroom, bring the girls. I don't care what any guy thinks. I look them in the eye and say, yes, I'm here with my daughters. And I bring them to the biggest stall I could find, have one of the girls turn around. All right, make sure you face the wall. So it's very difficult,
Wow.
especially when I have to use the bathroom.
Oh, word.
So I make them go to the corner in the same stall and like, all right, talk amongst each other. Daddy has to
Use the bathroom.
do his business.
That's something I don't think I would have ever considered in a million years prior to this conversation. That is so real. And I don't know, I'm just like, so that's the challenge.
Right.
But obviously there's some good stuff too.
Of course.
What's the good stuff? Give me some of your good stuff about being a girl dad
I
or just a
mean,
dad in general.
It's amazing. I mean, even situations like that, first of all, allows you to bond with the kids because you turn into a game and they kind of feel your tension. I guess women are intuitive from the start. So like,
Better half, I'm telling you.
yeah, sometimes my oldest daughter is like, Daddy, it's okay. You do what you have to do.
That's sweet.
I'll take care of Leia. So I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. But one of the greatest things that I get to do whenever I have them, it's we do this every time we bake. Like we have to go into the kitchen and like, Daddy, what are we baking today? We're baking a cake. I don't care what the occasion is. We bake a cake.
Nice.
So that's been such a great and rewarding experience. Not only are we bonding, but I'm learning how to bake.
That's what's up.
So do you feel like if you were to share that story, I know we talked about it before, like baking is something I feel like is stereotyped as a woman's thing. Is there anything else that you would feel like people would probably stereotype as a woman's thing that you're proudly doing with your girls?
It's hard for me to answer that question because when I'm with them, I'm so open to whatever their little minds conceive that I allow myself to be a canvas for whatever they want. My toes right now are painted.
What color?
They're pink.
You gotta get the
No, they're magenta.
The camera
They're
on this.
magenta with
Magenta.
Yes.
That's how you know.
Magenta.
Magenta,
with
fuchsia. We know
sparkles.
difference. It's not
With
just
sparkles.
purple and blue. We know.
No, yes. Get it straight. No, with sparkles. And I did not have, because I'm a guy, I don't know about the, you need to have the what do you call it? The
Acetone, nail polish.
the
remover.
nail polish remover.
Oh, nail
I'm
polish
learning these
remover.
things
Okay.
There you
now.
go.
I didn't know you had to have that. So I've had my toes painted for the last 4 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
That might be a note for when dating. You just throw it out there, like, by the way, just
I'm gonna keep my socks on.
Oh, that's a different episode. Like the socks on. Okay.
yeah.
So what's been your most rewarding thing?
Ow.
Like in terms of like challenging like that stereotype.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it goes back to culture, right? I like colors. I can wear. I had a lavender shirt on prior to coming here. I was like, oh, that's gonna be a cute color. She threw up on it. Like that's what it is, right? So the rewarding part is fighting through those stigmas with her already as a kid, right? So when she wears things, I'm like, oh my God, he's so cute. And just because she's in like pastel blue or something, it's like, it's not a boy. Like ask if my kid is a girl or boy, or just say the baby's cute, right? Like so, but the rewarding part is being able to do things like that with her, seeing her smile. I've since gone back to work. And so when I get back from work, I tag my wife out.
That was hard for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the most.
I think that challenges a stereotype. I think people think,
God.
especially in America, we're like one of the worst countries when it comes to parental leave.
Yo.
And I think there's this misconception that men don't want to be involved with the childbearing or the raising of the child.
Listen.
And I feel like you were probably crying more than Gabby was when it was time for you to go back to work.
I did and do. I could look at her and the right song could be playing, and it's either I'm an ugly crying, be like, you know, I'll share some video with y'all if y'all want to use it. There was, we were cooking. Speaks for your stereotypes. I cook in the house. Like my wife and I are partners, and we split a lot of things. But like I enjoy doing the cooking and things like that. But I'm singing "Lady in My Life" from Michael Jackson with the baby in the Bodgea, and that's another thing too. People are like, oh, you wear that with the baby? It's my favorite thing because she's on it, and she, so those are the rewarding moments, man. Being able to look down at her and she laughs and she responds to like faces and yeah. I put not only the Bodgea, like the boba wrap, like the whole wrap thing with the that's my jam, because she's so snug in it. So like being able, this life is ours, right? You leave the hospital, the only thing they ask you is if you have a car seat. There's no instruction manual. So everything else is a beautiful new journey. And I talk to people about it, and one of my male friends were like, you gonna have how much time off? Dog, you're gonna be dying to go back to work in 2 weeks, I promise you. And I was like, no. I was actually, so, my leave actually was supposed to keep me out until April, but I renegotiated a new job. So I had to go back in January. I promise you, I was late every single day for the first 2 weeks, because I would get in my car, warm it up, get out my car, go back upstairs, and be like, let me just hold it one more time. Let me just, because like, I never thought I could love something else or anything more than I love her in a different way, right? Because there's different types of love, but the love I have for this life, this little girl is like mind-blowing. I can't even,
Wait till she says I love you back.
Oh my
Bro.
Listen, I've seen my daughter right now to this day, from 3 months into her 20s, dancing at her wedding, whether it's with another woman, another man, whoever she's with, just being with her in those moments if she decides to get married, and then all the way back in between. I've done all this kind of like, and every time she's like.
Have you ever had someone, either of you can answer this, have you ever had someone who challenged you on like your fatherhood in terms of like your masculinity? Like, for example, you chose not to put your daughter in, a clothing type that is for girls, and you've chosen to bake and be a canvas for your daughters. Has there been anyone in your life, like someone close to you, not just a random person, but someone close to you, and how did you address that?
I'm lucky that I come from an open family.
Okay.
So I haven't been challenged per se by my family. More so just, sometimes I'll post, like I posted the other day on an Instagram story, like when they painted my toes. I got some bros, why did you let them do that?
Oh, like, really? So were these friends?
Yeah, like.
Okay, so these are people still
not friends, but like, they're
followers.
Followers, yeah.
Okay.
So like, bro, why would you let yourself, that's not a good look. I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. But these are my daughters. Like, they could do whatever they want as long as it's not, detrimental to their lives.
Right.
So.
Well, that's good. You just basically, I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah.
That's the energy for 2020. I'm not dealing with it.
Vibes for all 2020. I'm doing me. And I'm, like I said, that post-it that I have, or not the post-it, the index card that I have on my door.
Roadmap.
Yeah, they deserve a roadmap.
I love that.
Yeah, me, I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I have different energy levels. So there's the energy levels where like him, I'm like, I'm not with it right now. Like, I'm just gonna keep moving. And usually that happens around like race and privilege and those kinds of conversations. But when it comes to like my daughter or kind of the feminist portions of my soul, it's really like I feel a push. I'm obligated to try and challenge those, because I need her to, as she's growing up, to do the same thing, right? And so it's, for me, at least how my development and my place in life, like I need her to see these and I need to model those, right? Like, so when, if one of my friends, anybody says, I need to make sure she sees that this challenge is possible, right? I need her to be able to see these. And at 3 months, she's not seeing anything, right? But I need to make sure that consistent behavior happens. And I'm only not doing it just because I have a daughter now. That's always been me. So we were talking off camera before about, I'm that person in a staff meeting where, if there's somebody who says something and it's like incredibly racist or sexist, I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me? Let's have this conversation, right? Because I think it's important, especially, culturally, as we're becoming the majority in this country, as we're entering a different class, right? We're a generation that has earned degrees, or we're making more money than our parents have ever made in their lives. So we're entering this different class where those who have had that for generations don't accept us into. But as we shift out of this class of either poverty or lack of education strategically from an institution, that community sometimes doesn't welcome us back in. So it's our job to start creating that. He mentioned earlier, it takes a village. We got to start making sure that village is around us, right? Because so many times we isolate ourselves because we're like, oh, they're not going to do this, or they don't think about us this way. But when it comes to my daughter, I challenge all those. And like I said, with my mom, not that my mom is completely closed-minded. She is the dopest soul I've ever known. You've known her.
Yes,
for
amazing
a while.
woman.
And that's the thing, I can't fathom how she raised 4 kids with her resources, right? So I'm assuming, and I know that there was that village, but when it comes to us, I'll challenge my mom, and it's never like you wrong, you crazy. It's like, so mommy, let's have a conversation right now. She's like, all right, here we go again, right? Like, I sent you to school, you're supposed to do all these things, but like you think you're too smart. But it's always like, like she's gonna wear cleats and run around and play sports, and she's gonna build a fort in the backyard, and she's gonna scuff her knee, and I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, you okay? I'm like, yo, dust it off, you're okay. Like, starting these behaviors early. I'm sure with your daughters, right? When they get the thing, it's sometimes you hurt more than they do, right? So it's really important for me to challenge those things as they happen, because I need her to kind of grow up with those energies.
So earlier in the conversation, you guys mentioned feminism a bit. Were you, well, one, do you identify as a feminist now? And if so, did you identify as that before you had girls?
Now I do. Yeah. Before, I was very selfish and very, I was raised to be, a man has to do this, a man has to do that. Now I look like watching my daughters and seeing especially my 6-year-old who is a feminist. Every time she's like, daddy, girls should be empowered and this and that. I'm like, yeah, they should be. So I feel like as of late, yes, I've become more of a feminist, and I hope for a world where women have equality, because that's like, I want them to have equal opportunities, the same opportunities that I'm getting. I want them to have as well.
Yeah, in short, so prior to being a dad of a girl, absolutely, I was. It was a yes. I can't say that I was my entire life, because I didn't know what it was, right? We had that male privilege of not having to think about it. So at some point, as I matured and I learned and I developed, my own thoughts, I was like, okay, this is something that I need to be, because it doesn't take anything away from me. So absolutely. And I think similarly now, even more so as a dad, but even more so as a husband, like, my wife is my partner, right? And that's something I'll say, and some people will assume what my status is, because sometimes I don't call her my wife. Sometimes I'm working, my partner's taking care of that. And they're like, oh, right? So, but I've always, as that identity has formed around me, I've always made it my business to try and advocate for those who I don't share privilege with, right? Because it's a privilege to be in certain situations, so for sure.
So you guys kind of mentioned, like, your past relationships, like who you, like with yourself before you had girls. But I think relationships are super important in general, and the ones that we have with our parents, we mentioned our parents briefly, right? Yeah. So what is the relationship with your father, or rather, what was it, and how does it affect your parenting style, your relationship with your children?
So I love my dad, right? Let me start off by saying that. But we've always had this like competitive relationship where, like, I didn't hear my dad say I love you until like literally a year or two ago. Wow. For the first time. So that's the type of, like, you don't show emotion, you gotta be a strong man and like this, that, and a third. So not to say my dad has never provided for me, because he always, he kept a roof over our heads, but that whole like vibe of just, we don't say I love you because that's kind of gay type of thing, or or for whatever reason, I don't know what his reason is. I know he didn't have a good relationship with his father, who was abusive, and he never laid a hand on me, but there was still like this undertone of like, if I did something good, like, like he would say, he would call me names, this and that. Like, I remember like being a little boy and going into my room crying because my dad like didn't, like something that I did. And I was always trying to be the best in the room, and like I was always chasing.
So would you say it's a lot of that, boys have to be strong and cannot be in tune with their emotions?
Right.
It's almost like that, I guess you could say the stereotype or the myth that feminine and masculine energy are not embodied by both people. Like it's only for a particular.
Right. Feminine energy is for a woman, and masculine is for a man.
And that's how it was perceived in the house.
That's how it was perceived in the house. And I just remember my mom always coming to my room and saying, Jay, don't show emotion, because that's a weakness, and bullies feed on that. So I've always had that in me. It wasn't until, and this is the good that came out of the breakup, it wasn't until the breakup and my dad seeing me hit rock bottom at the point that I saw him cry for the first time. He this was like 8 months ago. He was just like, he cried and he said, I failed you as a man.
Oh wow.
And like I saw him weep, and I was like, dude, you're good, man. Like you gave me all the tools to like be solid. Like don't cry. Like
He did the best with what he had.
he did the best with what he had. He never laid a hand on me. So you know, in that moment, I realized something, that in order for me to be an effective father, I have to be an open book with my daughters. I have to tell them I love them every second I get, because I don't want them competing for those words to come out of my mouth. I want them to know right off the bat, like, there's no doubt I love you. And just showing them that a man can still, and this is something I'm discovering right now along with my dad, is that it's okay to be in tune with your feelings, and it's okay to kind of like just allow yourself to feel, to emote. Like I've been doing it for 8 months, and I feel like it's a drug now. Like I will watch a video on YouTube, and I will bawl my eyes out in the car. Like I allow myself to emote, and it's changed my life. Like I'm happy. So like I'm no longer seeking validation from anyone, which, you know, that was something that came from those days, like being a young kid seeking validation. I started doing that in my own everyday life. Instagram, I gotta stunt, you know, I gotta like make sure people know I'm with this person or that. So like it's a lot of layers that were added up. So
I feel like our stories are kind of, they hit wavelengths, but they're on opposite sides.
Yeah.
I never knew my biological father. I met him probably once when I was 6. And so a lot of my early childhood, I had a stepfather that, you know, the father of my other brothers. And so that relationship was interesting, because once he started having his own kids with my mom, it's almost like we became an afterthought as kids. So it wasn't intentional. I can kind of understand it to a degree, but doesn't justify it. And so then later on in life, just shortly, you know, he became violent and disruptive. And so I witnessed a lot of deviant, random, unnecessary toxicity in the house. So when it comes to how that relationship with him or my own fathers, it's been trippy. Because I like what you're saying about that roadmap. I never had that roadmap of what it means to be a father. But also growing up, I've always thought of those things of take it or leave it, right? Because I know people who have 2 parents in the household and they're amazing, right? Or people who have single parents and, you know, they're amazing, right? So that whole you need 2 parents to raise you is one thing. But, you know, there's days I struggle with it, right? Like I don't know what my father was and what he passed on to me, and I don't know what I'll pass on to my daughter. And so those things are always trippy to me to kind of think about, what does fatherhood look like, right? Because not that I'm doing it by myself, because it takes a village, but that aspect of what I want fatherhood to look like for me is something that I'm fighting every day, because I'm like, do I want it to look like these movies and how these people did it, and that's what a dad is supposed to look like? Do I want to do something different? Can I do something? Am I capable? So it's an unconscious struggle for sure, because I'm definitely that person that my mom, I consider her my mom and my dad, right? I don't call her mom, I call her lady, because back in the day you watched the old white movies and like, oh, that's my old man. I can't call my mom old lady, because then she'll wash me up. So I dropped the old real quick, and so I call my mom lady, and all my friends and family, they start doing that now because of me. But it's one of those things where I have no idea what it looks like to be a dad. And so for a long time I even hated my last name, because out of all the children that my biological father had, I was the only one who he gave his last name to, and he did it out of spite, because at the hospital my mom was going to just leave me with her last name, her maiden name, or whatever it was, and he showed up, named me, and then disappeared again. So for a long time I hated my last name, and as I start to think about like developing a family of my own, I'm starting to get a sense of pride, because I'm like, damn, Gia Suriel, tú eres un Suriel, like you have my last name, like I can build with this, and it's mine now. Sorry for tapping the table, but like that's the stuff that I'm starting to build with now. But it's only now in my 30s that I'm starting to make that a reality for me, because I have no idea. And there's sometimes a desire to like, if I met him, if I knew him, maybe things would be different. But it's like, for what at this part? Like I'm doing it. Why do I don't need that. Like I've gotten the love I needed from my mom and family, but like I'm good. But it's been a journey for sure to not have that roadmap, that model, or even the lack thereof has given me direction. I'm like, I want to do the opposite of that, which means be present. I want to be present as much as I can.
Wow, that was deep. You want to be...
My bad.
No, I love that. I just, first of all, thank you guys for being so vulnerable with that, because I know it's not like easy, especially if you're putting your family's name on it. But I think what's so amazing about both of your stories is that you're coming out on the other side, trying to change not only your family dynamics, but it seems that you have a consciousness that you're changing the culture.
Yeah.
Like you're moving
Word.
the culture forward, and that's what this conversation was all about. So again, thank both of you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Thanks for having
about
us.
your little ones. Let's keep in touch. Make sure you stay in touch with the Girl Mob. I want to thank our viewers at home for tuning in. Also, I want to thank our podcast listeners. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel already, make sure you go ahead and do so. Click that little icon where the bell is so you can be the first to know when we are dropping new content. Also, if you have not subscribed to our newsletter, make sure you go ahead and do that. It's all sunshine, no shade. I'm your girl, Mary, and you're watching Around the Way with the Girl Mob.